Okay, so I'll avoid the spoilery bits. But yeah, I mostly just want to talk about how they make it, because one thing that's particularly excellent about this documentary is how very good they are at manipulating your emotions.
Right.
The document, like the makers of documentary, are, I think, just brilliant at showing you the exact right clips, playing the right music, putting things in the right order to make you think a very certain way. And I think they are masterful at that. Basically, as the way they film it, like how many different techniques they use, because they use like every single technique of making a documentary like I've ever seen before. It's crazy. So normally for a documentary, um, you there are things called documentary modes,
Yes. I remember these
which
well.
you may remember.
Well,
Yeah,
I remember some of them well.
which is basically sort of the six different, I don't know, well, yeah, the modes of like that you can sort of fit documentaries
They're
into.
sort of the genres of documentary in a way, aren't they?
Yeah. So, but this one, the Tiger King somehow fits into almost every single mode of making it. So it's amazing how they managed to do it. I think just because it's just very very good documentary making, if that's what you think of it. So there's a big argument when you talk about a documentary is you need to talk about the truth,
Hmm.
right?
There's
How
sort
I
of
mean,
perceived objectivity to documentaries, which is
yeah,
entirely
no,
fallacy.
yeah, no documentary can be 100% objectively true. It's
Hmm.
just impossible.
Yeah.
You can't. It can't happen.
Just that's the nature of documentation in the first place, is,
Yeah.
choosing what to focus on, yeah.
Um, but then, so what most well, not most, some documentaries try to do is be as truthful as possible. So, for example, if we look at Senna
Yes.
by Astropedia, which is another brilliant documentary,
One of my all-time favourite films. So
what
good.
Astropedia does, his attempt to get to the closest to the truth is he only uses archive footage.
Hmm.
Um,
With no voiceovers or anything else shot
yeah, no
specifically for
voiceovers,
it. It's all, yeah.
all archive footage. He went through thousands of hours of Ayrton Senna's life basically and stitched it together to make this documentary. So that, I mean, that's a good way of getting to the truth because he didn't have to fabricate anything.
Hmm.
He chose stuff that already existed and put it together. But
But
then
even
the
then,
argument there is he chose what order they went in. He
yeah,
chose what to show and what not to show. So it still isn't
yeah.
objectively the truth,
And in Senna, there's this sort of construction of Alain Prost as this sort of like bitter rival, when in real life they probably weren't as against each other as the documentary has shown them to be. So
Yeah.
it's picking and choosing to make a effective antagonist for the story,
Yeah. But
which
I
is basically the
think
same principle for all documentaries, essentially.
yes, yeah. Um yeah, whereas this uses um so to give another example on top of that, Michael Moore, he makes documentaries all the time. So
Yeah.
Fahrenheit 9/11, Bowling for Columbine, he's made loads of documentaries.
Hmm.
He's very, infamous and famous for making them.
And being
Um,
quite provoking with them as well, and deliberately sort of trying
yeah,
to, yeah, provoke responses from the people he's
yeah.
making documentaries on.
So, what I mean, a lot of people argue that his version of documentary making is quite far away from the truth because he's so
Subjective.
provoking.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's so
Because he,
subjective.
because he's very much like the presenter of his documentaries, and he sort of narrates them, and he sort
Yeah,
of very much shows it
he's
from
very
how he
much
sees it.
exactly. Yeah, he's very very much a key figure in his documentaries because you see him asking all the questions. The other thing is you get a lot of reverse shots of him then asking the questions, and it's like they obviously had time. They've only got one camera, and they had time to set up the shot to ask the guy the question, and then have another time to then do the reverse shot. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a very famous interview with Charlton Heston.
Yes.
Charlton
Heston,
yeah. Yeah.
Of Planet of the Apes fame.
Yeah. Of because he's a big gun man, whatever.
Is he the president of the NRA, or was he just a big supporter of it?
I think he was a big supporter. I don't know if he was president, but he was big involved. Anyway, Michael Moore. So the camera's pointed at Charlton Heston. Michael Moore saying, "Oh, look at this picture of this girl. She got killed in, a school shooting or whatever, and the NRA did nothing or whatever. And it's, this is meant to be the climax of the film." And then Charlton Heston's basically, like, get out of my house. And it's like, that's fine. But then they show, obviously they didn't leave straight away because they have time to do the reverse shot of Michael Moore, holding up the photo and waving it at his face. Like, if that was real or live or whatever, and Charlton Heston's like, get the fuck out of my house,
they wouldn't be a reverse shot. They would have had to just gone. Yeah, exactly. He wouldn't have stayed around to be like, yeah, all right, I'll help you do the other side.
But the Tiger King uses so many of these techniques. So the documentarian, I can't remember his name, but he's in it.
Yeah.
Not frequently, but
no, he's there. So I remember in the first episode, he's there a couple of times when he seems to sort of take more of a backseat as it goes on. It seems.
But he definitely comes back towards the end as well, because there's a lot of it where you see him asking the questions. You get a lot of the documentarian on the phone talking to someone. You get a lot of him behind the camera, but still asking questions very audibly, and him holding the camera, pointing at things. You can see his hands and stuff. And it's like, that's interesting, because he's obviously very much there, very much manipulating the scene to be what he wants to show.
Yeah.
The other thing is there is no given time frame for when it's filmed.
No, I remember there was a vague mention of, like, I think they started it 5 years ago or something. Because I know there was because he's in prison now, and there was an idea that was 4 years or so after when, like, the rest of the documentary was filmed or something, as I recall.
But then that makes me think, like, if they've been filming for that long, they must have, and they do have, like, a lot of video evidence of them, of Joe Exotic and all the others committing the crimes that they do. And it's like, surely if you have that on file, you just show that or whatever. You do something with that.
Well, I mean, they put it out on Netflix where everyone's seen it, so in some way they have done. It's sort of brought it to light.
There's a big part of it. This is, I don't know what part this is in. I don't want to spoil it, so I won't say that bit. Okay. But there's a big bit that's really made me think, well, hold on a second, because this person said this and they've given it as a conviction of being absolutely true, but you've shown things previously in the documentary that shows he's not true.
Yeah.
It's like, who are you trying to make this man? Obviously they want this man, they're trying to show him in a positive light, but then they've literally showed footage before that shows that, this thing that this man has said is wrong. And it's like, well, that's the other thing. Like, the I don't want to say the side the documentary is on, what angle it's going for is constantly changing, I think.
Well, it seems for the most part like it's trying to support. Well, it seems, to me at least, the documentary seems it's more or less, I don't know if this changes in the last couple of episodes, but it seems to be more or less on Joe Exotic's sort of side, and, like, against Carol Baskin. But it does sort of start to shift away from that. You say? Or you reckon it's more on Carol Baskin's side then? Or just no one's side?
I think it's on no one's side. I think it's an expose trying to show that the whole world of these exotic cat owners is crazy, including Carol Baskin, because it does sort of align you with Joe Exotic, but then I think it's almost satirical in a way.
Yeah. Well, I think
it's showing how fucking messed up he is and how crazy he is and how weird he is. Especially that bit don't know if you've seen this yet, but it's like, oh yeah, he really loves guns, and there's a bit of him Joe Exotic with a drawn gun that's loaded, pointing at the cameraman.
Yes, I do remember that bit.
He walks straight up to the cameraman, fires a bullet like right next to his head, and it's like, oh my god, this man is insane.
Well, that's the thing. On the bit I've done, there's the whole thing with him deliberately infringing copyright of Carol Baskin's place to sort of make a point, and then he gets stuck in like millions of pounds of legal fees, and it's sort of like ruining him. And like at that point, at least, it feels like while this documentary started more or less on sort of Joe Exotic's side, by this point we're sort of starting to drift away, and it's like, no, look, he's an idiot and also insane. Like it's starting to detach more from him. In the same way as I was sort of writing about with Joker and how it sort of starts on his side and then starts to gravitate away from him and look at him from a more sort of distance. I think Tiger King is doing something similar. Again, I'm not quite sure how it ends, but I'm imagining it sort of continues on that trajectory.
See, it's interesting because I don't know whether it's just Joe Exotic, but he's very hard not to feel like sorry for him.
Yeah, I think the thing is he's just a very charismatic character is the thing, isn't it?
Yeah. But he's very charismatic, and I don't know, he gets really wound up very quickly, and it like he ruins his life basically.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. He
sort of lets his temper get the best of him and sort of his pettiness, yeah.
But then is that what they want you to think? Because at the end of the day, he is in jail for his crimes. Like, he's not a good person. It's like, but then, I don't know. It feels weird. They bring up some really interesting points because it gets you to think a very certain way, and then it will twist it suddenly and get you to think the opposite way, you know?
Right,
I think that was very interesting, especially with Carol Baskin.
I was gonna say with the
yeah, go on.
With the because in the second episode towards the end, it's sort of talking about Carol and like it's like, oh yeah, she's done some things, she's done all this, and then oh yeah, and she probably killed her husband. And it's like, sorry, what? And then it's like, yeah, she definitely probably killed her husband. And then the episode just sort of ends. It's like, oh, that's it brings it up so suddenly. And then the next episode is entirely about this whole conspiracy that she's killed her husband and fed him to the tigers or put him in the septic tank. And like this is just the subplot of the series as well. And it's like such a big sort of like such a shocking moment. But the way it's introduced is so sort of like offhand.
Yes. But there's so many little subplots about this that weren't necessary. Like, so much of it hasn't got anything to do with Joe Exotic.
Yeah.
Like, there's a whole episode dedicated to Carol Baskin. There's a whole episode dedicated to John Lowe.
Yeah.
You know, of these other things that have gone on. There's episodes dedicated to, you know, but completely different things that have nothing to do with the actual story. I think they only are there to change your mind about certain people.
Right. Okay, that's an interesting idea.
Because the whole Carol Baskin thing, in the first episode, she is fully presented, I think, to be the good guy, and you're like, oh, okay, that's obviously the protagonist, and Joe Exotic's going to be the antagonist. But then I think it's the third episode that is about her missing husband case, like that serves entirely to show her in a completely new perspective, you know.
See, that's interesting because I never liked Carol Baskin, and like from the beginning she felt like the antagonist. But I don't know if that's just because there's this because the whole thing about protagonist and antagonist is there's this thing in Greek theatre where it all started. Like, protagonist was the first person on stage kind of thing, and the antagonist was the second person under the stage. So, like, in that principle, I was like, I naturally thought, like, okay, Joe Exotic's the first person we see, he's our protagonist. And then his rival is Carol, so he's going to be the antagonist. So I don't know if it's just simply, like, the order they were introduced. But I never felt in any way that Carol was, like, a good person, you know, and, like, the protagonist.
I don't know. I feel like she is, because well, in the first episode at least, this gets a bit more dicey the further you go on. But I feel like the way she's introduced, because, you know, she has the big cat sanctuary, and she's dedicated her entire life to trying to save big cats, and she's trying to pass these laws that's gonna, ban abuse of animals, basically.
Well, see, this is the thing that that really sort of like, well, not triggered me, but like I found really bizarre and sort of infuriating about her character was she was like, oh yes, I've got this sanctuary for cats, and I save all the big cats from these other awful zoos which lock up the cats in cages and make visitors interact with them. No, I take all these cats and put them in my sanctuary and put them in cages where visitors can look at them. It's like, okay, well that means your sanctuary is exactly the same as every other person's zoo, except your cages are smaller. Like, there's no attempt to rehabilitate them or stop them. You're just building a rival sanctuary under the guise of it's a sanctuary and it's caring. That's why I didn't like it. That's why I don't think she's a protagonist. She's just as bad as the others, but she's manipulative about it.
Yeah, that's what. But she is always under the guise of doing good work.
But that's why I think she's worse. Like, Joe Exotic's like, no, okay, this is my tiger, not farm, zoo. This is my zoo. I'm very open about here's my tigers. I like them, but like I use them as my business, and that's my income. And he's very open about that. While Carol tries to pretend she cares about the animals, but she's doing exactly the same thing, and she's a hypocrite for it. And that's why I was at no point on her side, because that's introduced quite early on, I remember.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you did it the other way.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's all up to interpretation.
Exactly. Like all great art is.
I feel like I don't know, she is a better person. I think she is really dodgy. Because there's a whole bit about... So there's the other guy, I think his name's Don. I can't remember. He's got a white beard and like a cowboy hat or whatever. He's a really creepy dude.
Right.
He's got, like 3 wives or something.
Yeah.
He was so weird, but you could tell he was brilliant in front of the camera. But you could tell he was very, very used to being interviewed and owning the interview, if you know what I mean. Like,
yeah, he was sort of very comfortable with the sort of in his own skin and with being on camera and stuff. Yeah, sort of.
Also, he knows what makes a good shot, and he was like, "Oh, do you want a shot of me watching this interview, and then I can turn to the camera and react to it?"
Yeah.
And even the very first time he's introduced, he's like, "Oh, okay, do you want me to go back indoors and come welcome you into my home?" And they were like, "Yeah, that'd be great." It's like he is straight away.
He's a showman.
He's a showman, but he's also manipulating people to make himself look like a good person.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. Like, and he does it brilliantly, I think.
And the documentary exposes that he is doing it. Yeah.
So I remember what I was going to.
Okay.
Yeah. I was going to talk about how much they pay their employees.
Right.
So it's like that guy who's called Don, I can't remember, he pays his employees $100 a week, and they are doing 12 14-hour days every single day. They don't get
crazy,
a day off.
Yeah.
Like that. We worked it out, and it's roughly like $1 an hour.
It's not sub minimum wage.
And then, well, yeah, I mean it must be, but
yeah,
I don't know. Obviously, they're getting away with it.
Yeah.
And Joe Exotic was paying his people $150 a week, and you're like, oh my god, that's terrible. Which works out to about like $1.30 an hour or something like that. It's like, oh, that's slightly better than this other guy, but that's still terrible.
That's still way too low.
Yeah. But then it cuts to Carol Baskin. Carol Baskin's like, oh yeah, all of our employees are volunteers.
Yeah.
And it's
so I don't have to pay them anything.
Well, hold on. Yeah, exactly. You don't pay them anything. All they get is a different coloured shirt. That really made me look differently at her. Because it's like, Joe Exotic was like, oh yeah, pay them $150 a week because that's all I can afford to pay them. And he employs like ex-cons and homeless people off the street. He's like, do you want to, I'll give you a job and I'll give you somewhere to live. I was like, that's actually a really nice thing for him to do.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's like cheap labour for him, but that's still an inherently a good thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's that scene of him, he goes up to a homeless woman at a gas station. He was like, do you want a job? And she's like, yes. And he's like, do you want somewhere to live? She's like, yeah. And he's like, cool, come with me. It's like, I mean...
That would not work in most people, surely.
No, but that is still a nice thing to do, isn't it? Whereas Carol Baskin's like, works volunteers only, works them just as hard.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Like volunteering for 12-hour days.
Top ranking. Yeah, but if you want to be a top-ranking volunteer, the blue shirts or whatever they were, it's like, oh yeah, you've got to have at least 2 years here and like 1,000 hours or something stupid like that. It's like, how can you expect someone to dedicate their entire life to you and not pay them anything?
Yeah.
And that's just...
So, because then she's got the thing about like, oh, I'm doing good, it's a sanctuary and it's all la-di-da-di-da, and therefore it's like, oh, so I can get away with volunteering because it's like not for profit, even though it almost certainly is for profit.
Well, it is for profit because she lives in a bloody mansion.
Exactly. It's just that's why the whole thing about like, oh, it's a sanctuary, I'm caring for them annoys me so much because like it clearly isn't.
Yeah. Ugh. Well, then turning that around to Joey Essex.
Joey Essex? When did he get involved in the documentary? I haven't got to that bit yet.
Joe Exotic. Christ. Joe Exotic.
Yeah.
He also lives in a mansion, but makes his employees live on like terrible mobile homes.
Yeah. But again, at least he's sort of upfront about it in a way.
Old Walmart meat, you know.
Yeah, but I thought the thing about the sort of off meat from Walmart and stuff was actually like really good because obviously there's a lot of food wastage in that industry, and like he's right, a lot of it is perfectly good. So why not use it? You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, again, like that to me paints him as like a good person in a way.
I mean, yeah. I think we should also point out that he is not a good person.
Oh no one in this documentary
is a bad person.
Yeah, everyone in the documentary to some degree is not good, and because within the world documentary, certain people rise up as being better than others, even though truly they are all in their own cesspit.
Yeah. I don't want to spoil anything, but there is a very poignant moment in the last episode.
Okay.
Where it's sort of it's finished the whole thing. And it gives its sort of final statement.
Right. Well, I don't want to ruin it. I'll finish the series. I'll finish over the weekend, and we'll have a spoiler corner about it next week, and we'll discuss some other moments as well. Yeah.
Just because there's some really, really good bits in there, but for the other documentary things, like there's some fly on the wall bits where they've just set up a camera somewhere and they are recording stuff.
Mm.
But there's also loads of talking heads. And those other things, it's so manipulative because you have no idea when they filmed, how long they filmed for.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Sometimes you don't know where they are.
Because this potential 5-year span, they could have been like moving along, around the timeline, and we don't really know when or where that's happening. Yeah.
Well, there's a interesting bits I noticed in the later episodes. They have an interview with I think she's a news reporter, and she was like the sole reporter for the Joe Exotic court case. But where they've set her up for her talking head, there's a clock in the background.
Okay.
And you can see how they have, during this interview, the way they've cut it together. I was just watching the clock because it's obviously
like in The Simpsons.
They've taken a bit from. Well,
yeah.
They've taken a bit from 15 minutes earlier and stitched it onto this bit she's just said like 50 minutes later and made it one flowing bit to manipulate what she's actually said into saying what they want her to say, if you know what I mean.
That's interesting because the fact that they left the clock in, that seems like such a rookie mistake. I wonder maybe is that a deliberate sort of, to point to the construction of it all.
I mean, possibly. I don't know.
Or is that too meta for this documentary?
That makes me want to think, like, they must have done that so much, so frequently, and so often throughout the whole documentary. It's like, how much of this can be relied on?
You think they'd at least
another thing.
I was going to say, do you think they'd at least like blur out the clock and like do a sort of a vignette of some kind? If they're like, that seems like such a strange thing to leave in.
Yeah,
like such a glaring.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say is they interview this man a lot. He's got no legs, if you remember him.
Yes, I do remember him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't remember his name.
They interview him a lot. But if you notice, he is interviewed, and he's interviewed in 3 different locations.
Right.
But they will have an interview with him, or they'll have an insert of him, and then they'll show a clip and they'll have an insert from him, and he's in a different location. It's like, okay, they've obviously gone back to him and said, we want you to talk about this specifically, please, because your last interview wasn't manipulative enough. Or,
you didn't say what we wanted you to say in that interview, yeah.
But it definitely feels like that because of how much. And there's another man called James Garrison. I don't know if you've met him yet.
I couldn't tell you from the name. I'm very bad with names.
Yeah, he's interviewed in like 4 or 5 different places. They've even got some like undercovers. Obviously, the camera is hidden, and they're interviewing. Anyway, it's like they've just put that together wherever they want, because, and it could mean anything. They've manipulated it so well into their narrative.
Yeah,
and I think you've just got to be very wary of that, especially when watching this. Anyway, we talked about Tiger King for absolutely ages.
Yeah.
Should we? We'll come back to it, because
there's definitely more
so much excellent stuff there.
Yeah. Okay.
Just this documentary is brilliant, and you should. Yeah, we'll move on.